Truth is something that we talk about a lot in our society. Given the events in the world, we've been talking a lot about sovereignty. In Irish paganism, especially our Druidry, which is rooted in Irish paganism, we have a combination of the two, the truth of sovereignty. It is both a thing we seek and a power we can wield. Let's talk about that today as we walk down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie. I am a Christopagan Druid and priest of Brigid, and I'm joined today by my husband, Brian.
Hi, I'm Brian. I am a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the Dagda.
Today we're going to be talking about the truth of sovereignty, which is a really big topic that we are going to be revisiting over and over again. Before we get into it, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology is wherever you're listening to this podcast, because we deliver Christopagan Druid content on this channel 5 days a week. You don't want to miss anything that we're talking about. We've got some doozies in the pipeline, not to mention everything that we've done already. So don't forget to like and subscribe.
For those brave listeners who want, I put together an everything fire hose over on YouTube. It is everything starting from the oldest to the newest. It's a giant fire hose of all of them if you just want to sit back and have a nice long playlist running.
Including our other two podcasts, The Hollowstead and The Church of the Oak. I like to write triads. I think it's a good way to root ourselves in the tradition and to give ourselves something to meditate on and think about when we're discussing these big issues. For the truth of sovereignty, I wrote 2. We're going to take them one at a time. 3 right relationships of the truth of sovereignty: the wholeness of self, the honor of the land, and the equality of the living. Now, the truth of sovereignty, and please forgive me with this, my Old Irish is not that good. I'm pronouncing this the way I understand it would be pronounced using modern Irish pronunciation rules. Fear Flahaman is how I pronounce it, because when there's an H after a T, you don't pronounce the T in modern Irish Gaeilge. So, the truth of sovereignty. What is it? The truth of sovereignty is the relationship that we have with ourselves, with the land and the spirits of the land, including the sovereign goddess of the land and the goddess of the river, and our relationships with each other. You'll notice that we keep going back to this idea over and over and over again that truth is relational. This is one of the main reasons why. Truth arises from these relationships. Maintaining right and proper relationship is the core of what we're doing. Let's go through this triad and try to figure out how this works. In our modern society, we tend to think of truth as a monolith. I am going to discover the capital T truth. What we learn in our practice here is that truth really is relational. There's a difference between truth and facts. Facts, when they can be discerned, are singular. A thing happened. That's fact. Truth is more nuanced because it takes into effect how it affected everyone. If you say that there is a car wreck, fact, and Bob got whiplash in the car wreck, well, we can look at what the doctor said, we can look at how Bob is acting, and discern the truth of that relationship of the whiplash, or if it does exist, and the car wreck. There's a relationship there. For all we knew, Bob was out at a heavy metal concert, headbanging all night, and got whiplash, and then got into a car wreck. When we are working on sovereignty, on discovering this sovereignty, it starts with ourself. That's why the first part of this triad is the wholeness of self. Understanding you have a right to say no, understanding you have a right to say yes, understanding how consent works over your labor, your relationships, your interactions with others. Those are all part of this knowledge of self, this truth of self, and understanding our wholeness in that. It can be very complicated. For those of us who are queer, those truths may not be immediately self-evident because we don't have the words for it. I didn't learn that I was non-binary till I was in my 40s because I had never heard the term. I knew I was different. I figured that I was probably trans in some way, but I didn't know the word. It took a while for me to discover this truth about ourselves. This is that kind of truth that we joke about from the 60s, that hippie truth. Go find your truth. Because it really does involve your relationship with yourself. And it is foundational to everything that we do.
It's ever changing. It's very important to keep that in mind, that as the individual learns new concepts, new mimetic structures, they are then able to reevaluate, or should go back and reevaluate themselves to gain more truth about themselves. I went undiagnosed ADHD. It's not like severe or anything. So for the longest time, I knew I thought differently than most people. We kind of always joked that I was a robot programmed not to know that I was a robot. But it wasn't until we started learning more about neurodivergence and a lot of the new information coming out that I was able to start understanding that truth about myself.
As we continue in our practice and in our life, this truth, like you said, is going to be ever evolving. We're going to learn, I think one of the most shocking truths that people have to learn is that we're often different people depending on what group we're around. That helps us to figure out what groups we want to be around. That gets into the second one, the honor of the land. Our relationship to our environment is very complex and complicated. You can study environmentalism, you can study biology, you can study all of these things, and you're learning facts. We're talking about the psychology of it. We're talking about how it actually affects you and how you affect it. We know that humans tend to have better mental health outcomes when they are exposed to the dappled light coming through leaf. You can do this in many ways. You can set up certain kinds of green lights that will mimic this so that your brain thinks that you're having this experience. There's certain feelings and processes that are kicked off in our body when we see sunlight, moonlight, starlight, all of these things. Those are all taught to us through the law of averages. What we have to learn is how those affect us individually. What is your relationship to the sun, to nature? Do you have a lot of allergies? Well, if you have a lot of allergies, maybe going out to the park doesn't actually bring you a lot of joy. Do you have a physical disability that makes it difficult for you to hike and get around in some of these spaces? That is going to affect how you interact with the land. It's going to affect how you feel that land management should be done. If you live in an area that has public parks and you have difficulty getting around in the parks, well, you may band together with others and express your sovereign truth that new paths need to be made, or the old paths need to be retrofitted so that people in wheelchairs, people with canes, people with walkers can more easily utilize the space. That is an exercise of our truth of sovereignty as we are coming together and learning how to be in the land, in the space that we're in. It involves a lot of things like what kind of car do you want to drive? How do you run your air conditioning, your heating?
It also involves recognizing the climate, what nature in that area that you live in needs as part of that relationship. Because part of that truth is you could go and plant trees, for instance. If your environment struggles with water, then certain trees might be actually harmful. That's why part of that truth is relational, understanding both sides.
We talk about the oaks. You may live in an area that doesn't have oaks. That doesn't mean that you need to plant an oak. This wisdom tradition originated in Ireland, where there are oaks everywhere. What is the most common tree in your area? What is the tree that symbolizes wisdom to the people in your area? That's coming into harmony with this. We are about to celebrate the autumnal equinox, unless you're in the southern hemisphere. We're going into autumn, they're going into spring. So we're going to be talking about the autumn equinox. We have an episode on the live stream we did during the spring equinox, and we recommend that people go check that one out if you're actually going into spring rather than fall. Understanding everyone isn't going into fall. For the community, which is in the northern hemisphere like we are, we're making some choices on how we are discussing our relationship with the land, how we are honoring it, and how we are living within it. Which brings us to the third, the equality of the living. This is so important in Druidry. I wish we could get more people to understand this. It's interesting seeing how the biological sciences and the environmental sciences are coming around to this idea in non-human persons. And that's a very important phrase. It's very technical, but it's a very important phrase. And it's easy for us to see non-human persons in animals because we can have a relationship with that animal. We can see that it has its own personality, ... When we're saying our relationships with all living, that river is living. The trees in the forest are alive, but so is the forest. The forest is an interconnected organism with all of the mycelial networks connecting the roots together, the way the trees are communicating with each other and all the interconnectedness there. It is an organism in and of itself and should be treated with the respect of a person. You can get as spiritual as you want to with this. I am an animist at heart. I am a panentheistic animist. And so to me, when I say the forest is alive, I feel the presence of a spirit of the forest. Whether or not you experience the spirit of the forest or the spirit of the trees, that tree is a non-human person. That forest is a non-human person and deserves respect and protection under law. Same with the mountains, the streams, everything. Learning to live our truth is about learning how to navigate these complex relationships between ourselves, our environment, and all living things. That's the internal workings of it. That's the philosophical part of the truth of sovereignty. It can get much more complicated, and traditionally there are relationships with the goddess of sovereignty to the land, like I said before, and the goddess of the river. We'll come back and revisit those concepts in a future episode. The other half of the truth of sovereignty, as we're introducing it here, is how powerful it is. So I think you know me by now. I wrote a second triad. The three powers of the truth of sovereignty: healing of blemishes, the restoration of life, and the return of justice. The truth of sovereignty has power. We see it in the stories, and when you start to exhibit it in your own life, you start to see what those powers are. With that power comes great risk of harm, systemic injustices, biased injustice, where you think you're being fair, you think you're living in truth, but your biases are getting between you and the truth that you want to be actually doing. The three powers here are actually from a story in the Ulster cycle of a judge. I'm going to tell the story very simply. We can, again, if you all want, we can go into it much deeper in a future episode. But a judge basically makes a very misogynistic ruling. His bias against women is so strong that, oh no, the woman can't ever be right. And immediately his face breaks out in blemishes. His boils break out on his face and all over his body. He has violated his truth because he's not living in right relationship with other people. And the land suffers as well. It's not until his mother-in-law, who is named in the story as Brigid of the Judgements, comes in and basically says, "You are a fool. Here's the truth. Here's what you should have actually seen going on here. That's why you're suffering. That's why you've made them suffer, and that's why you've brought all of this suffering into the world." The judge looks up at his mother-in-law and says, "You are right." And the blemishes immediately disappear from his body. He reverses his ruling, restores justice to the land. That's one of the basic stories. There are a lot of stories about the truth of sovereignty. That's the one that inspired this triad for me. The truth of sovereignty removes blemishes. All those things that we do wrong, we can do right. You can fix an error.
Yeah, remembering that all of life is impermanent. That mistake is also impermanent. It can be corrected. A lot of them can be changed. It starts with that right relationship, recognizing that you made the error in the decision, choosing to do right.
And doing.
Yeah. And you got to put in the effort.
Because that's really the struggle here with all of this. It's a twofold problem, because now we're in relationship. There's the relationship that you have responsibility for, that you have wronged someone or something, and that you have to make restoration and make right so that you can remove that blemish. That other person has to accept that. That's why forgiveness is so important, because, now, catch me here, this is really important. Forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. If someone is weighing on your mind, and all you can think about is revenge, vengeance, getting back at them, how much they've hurt you, you are no longer living in right relationship with yourself, with them, and that will affect your relationships with others. Forgiveness, even if they haven't asked you for it, And if you really want to freak some people out, forgive them, and they won't know how to handle it. But forgiveness is for you. It's to keep you from harming your other relationships through bitterness, through vengeance, and through the blinders that we can put up from holding a grudge. Forgiveness is not forgetting. A lot of people try to lump those together. You can remember what that person did wrong to you. You may not ever have a relationship with that person again. But if you are carrying the weight and the burden of that, you are hurting all of your relationships, thus no longer living from a place of truth.
My favorite imagery for understanding this is you take a coin, put it in your hand, clench your fist tight, very, very tight, as tight as you can. First of all, that coin probably should start to hurt because it's digging in. You are hurting yourself clenching onto that. Forgiving is holding your hand out and opening it, unclenching it. The coin is still in your hand. You haven't let it go. It is not gone. You have just opened up your hand so it can just rest there. That is the trick with forgiveness, is it's about opening that back up and letting it just rest. It may be there, it may not, but it's okay.
The truth of sovereignty isn't just about forgiveness. It's about all of our activism, all of the things that we are doing here. It's about what Gandhi would call satyagraha, the power of truth, or soul force. We've actually done a few episodes. The most recent episode of The Church of the Oak is on that kind of truth of sovereignty, of how to get into your community and actually help make a better place that works for justice and all the things that we want to see happen. When we are repairing these relationships, that is some of the most potent and powerful magic that we can perform. And it is magic. We've been fooled by fantasy fiction into thinking that magic is waving your hand and having a fireball appear in front of it.
Yeah.
Magic is our subtle interactions with the world, whether they are through spirit or through our actual literal interactions with the world. Every time you take a medicine, that is magic. Someone has figured out the proper portions of all the ingredients to go in there, just like the ancients did with the herbs when they were making herbal remedies. It's a potion in pill form or a potion in shot form. It is magic.
It is.
It may be from science, but it is still magic.
I laugh because I sit back and go, if you want to feel like you're doing high fantasy magic casting, raise up your clenched fist, say, I forgive myself, and then reach that out towards your target of the spell and open your fist and say, I forgive you. There you go. There's your spell. Just like high fantasy. And the freaky thing is you will feel a sudden change in yourself and in your environment and atmosphere. Plus, if you're like me, you'll probably just start laughing a bit as well because it's funny.
I think we're afraid of the word magic. The Enlightenment has made us afraid of the word magic
Yeah.
into thinking that it's about superstitions and all of this. That's not what magic is. Yes, magic is sometimes casting a working, doing a ritual. Most of what is actual magic is I know when my emotions are overly heightened. If I make a chamomile mint tea, I have those in herb jars in there. It's like making a potion. I know this much chamomile to this much mint with this much honey. Brew that as a tea. The smell of it starts relaxing. The taste of it relaxes me anymore. That's potion brewing. That is magic. That's also psychology at work. That's also using medicinal herbs at work. Sometimes put a little bit of lavender in it if I need it to have more kick. We can see the studies that show that these things actually have an effect on us. Magic is the energy that we put out into the world, the intents that we put out into the world to bring about change. Whether they are through some form of subtle activism in our private place, through some form of energy work, because I do believe in energy work, or in our day-to-day interactions with others. Forgiving people is a strange magic.
It is.
Because people react strangely to it. You never know how they're going to react. To one person, forgiveness is as much a curse as it is a blessing. How dare you forgive me? I didn't ask for forgiveness. That you just cursed somebody with forgiveness. You didn't do anything bad there. You didn't do anything wrong there. You just let go. I'm not holding this anymore. You have no power over me. And you can see that, what do you mean I have no power over you? As they're realizing that the magic they had over you is broken. Magic is all of these subtle relationships and interrelations that we have with each other. One of the primary ways we access magic in Druidry is through the truth of sovereignty. When we pray to the sovereign goddess of the land, it's not a worship service. It's about bringing to mind and bearing in mind all of the things that our land needs: the people, the animals, the trees, the waterways, and how we can have right relationship with it through this non-human person. All of these things help us in doing our work and living our lives well. This is how we really do learn how to live our own truths. It's by negotiating all of these relationships.
One last quick truth I wanted to touch on, along with all of this, recognizing that because it's a relationship, we can only do what we can do. Because with this truth of sovereignty, it starts first with yourself and the truth, then yourself and the others, the environment, other people, all of that. It's starting with yourself and recognizing and accepting you can only do what you can do. And then being honest with others with that same truth. Because some are in a position where they could have a wider, greater impact. And so therefore, the truth of sovereignty is they have that greater responsibility. And some can't.
This is what you hear me say, like, there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire. There isn't. If you have that much wealth and you are not actively making the world a better place, and I'm not talking through forcing your will upon it, which is how billionaires often spend their money. It's that hoarding of wealth. I have the right answers. I know all the truth.
We're not talking millions, we're talking billions. This is a very large number. First truth is most people can't really wrap their heads around that big of a number. It's outstanding. Like, the truth is in looking through those relationships to see, did you not pay the employees enough? Is that where all that windfall of money came from? Did you charge too much for your services or products? Is that where the windfall of money came from? Odds are in favor of somewhere in there, or all the above is generally what happened to cause that. And it can be correctable. Truth is, it's difficult. It's not easy in that position. But a lot of that is back to recognizing, being truthful with yourself and recognizing that truth, that you can only do what you can do. This also helps protect against getting wore out and fatigue. Activism fatigue is a very real thing. And a lot of that compassion fatigue is a very real thing. And a lot of it comes from people not recognizing their truth of sovereignty and trying to live within their truth. And also sometimes somebody in that relationship may be pressuring too much. They're not recognizing and respecting the truth of sovereignty of the other individual, that they've already done all they can do. They can't do anymore.
It's unlike the solipsistic view that we usually have of, I'm living my truth. The truth of sovereignty is not just your truth. It is your right relationship to everyone and everything around you. So yeah, part of it is about you living your truth, but you have to live that truth in right relationship with everything else around you. And that really does change the equation in such a powerful way.
It's tricky because it's knowing, okay, I need to push this person to help them step up their truth, or I need to back off this other person, or I may need to go and do the inverse of forgiveness and start with, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I pushed you too hard, and recognizing that, or just thanking them for what they did. It's even more powerful.
Gratitude is the power of the truth of sovereignty. And we could go on forever.
Oh yeah.
And we will be revisiting this topic probably fairly often. It is, like I said, it is core to our practice. I have written some stuff about it over at wisdomscry.com. I'm actually, as we're recording this, working on an article about how the truth of sovereignty is related to finding meaning in life, finding our meaning, our purpose, our significance, how we actually matter. I don't know when that's going to be done. It's a large topic to write out, but hopefully that'll be up over on Wisdom's Cry soon. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to know how you are participating with this idea. Is this the first time you've heard of the truth of sovereignty? If not, where did you first hear about it? Because I'm always looking for resources for study, and I'm curious if we got it from the same sources or not. How do you practice this in your own daily life? I would love to know. If you're listening to us on YouTube or Spotify, you can leave a comment right there and they will notify us, and we will be able to respond to you and see your comments. If you're anywhere else, you can write and leave the comment there if they let you, but copy it when you're done and head over to creationspaths.com, click on the chat, and post it over there so we can see it and be in community with you. Because we only get notifications from YouTube and Spotify for any comments that are left on the podcast. While you're over at Creations Paths, if you have any money that you can pass our way, it really does help us out. You can sign up for a membership over there. That goes a long way to help us keep food on our table, keep the lights on, and keep producing this content for you, because we really do want to make this our full-time job. If you want to support us somewhere else, you can find us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am C. Dorset on both of those, CEDORSETT. And if you don't have any money right now, which trust me, I know how that feels, I'm there right now myself, you can help us out by sharing this content with anybody that you think would benefit from it. Because helping us grow, helping us reach more people really is the end goal. It's not really making the money. Like, we'd really like to be able to support ourselves off of this, but getting the message out is our main goal. So thank you for everyone who shares our stuff. It really does help out a lot. All right. Thank you all for listening. And as always, may the one life enlighten you so that you may find your own truth and see all of the ways that you are interconnected with the infinite web of life around you, so that you can sovereignly live your truth to the best of your ability and heal the land and bring justice wherever you go. Amen.
Amen.